I won in 23 moves against the Sicilian defense. This is round 1 of Hershey Quads in Hershey, Pennsylvania. I'm back in Pennsylvania. It's game in 40, delay 5, and this is a no engine recap until the very end of this video. I annotated this game a little bit, so you might see some of my question marks and exclamation points. But this is a no engine recap. So with that being said, let's hop right in and hopefully we can learn something through this process. I played e4 and I'm playing Sarav Sahey. He's a senior player. I think he's younger than 65, if I had to guess. So I'm playing at 1500, so I'm playing down about 500 points. And he played the Sicilian, and we both developed our knight, and I played bishop b5. So I like playing this way against knight c6 because I'm going to rebuild my pawn chain on the... I'm going to build my pawn chain on the light squares, point towards the king side, and potentially play f4 and have a king side attack. And here, the 3 most common moves and the 3 best moves are e6, g6, or knight d4 attacking the bishop. Those are the top 3 moves. Sarav played a6, which is already an inaccuracy because I want to take on c6 anyways. So you're just allowing me to take on c6. You spent a move making me play the move I wanted to play. So that move is already an inaccuracy on move 3. I played f4 to controlling the center. He played d5, saying, "Hey, I'm contesting the center. If you go e5, you've committed how your pawn chain is going to look like, and I can play bishop f5 maybe at some point, maybe not immediately. Like actually e5, bishop f5, g4 is really interesting. Bishop could probably just go back this way, but if the bishop goes back this way, then it's trapped, which is kind of crazy. But maybe white doesn't want to commit their pawns like this so early on. So I played d3, maintaining my pawn. So now, if you do take, well, firstly, you're left with these Isolanis. It's a lot of isolated pawns. I can probably take back with my knight, actually. So even though I've given up control of the center a little bit by not taking back with the pawn, I take back with the knight, and I'm going to be targeting these isolated pawns for the rest of the game and have a very comfortable game. So he played d4. So he's saying, "Oh, you're going to allow me to push." But now, I don't mind that at all. I'm just going to retreat my knight. And now this c4 square is a permanent outpost for me for the rest of the game. So if I can get a knight there, which I do later in the game, it's just a very great square for the knight. No pawns can kick it out of the way. So great outpost for the knight. Blockading the doubled isolated pawns as well. He plays e6. I note that as an interesting move. At least I'm trying to remember what the exclamation point and question mark means. In chess books, I think it means like a surprising move or something like that. I forget what it means in chess books. But on chess.com, it notes this annotation as interesting. So I've considered this an interesting move. For me personally, if I was playing black, I probably would play bishop g4 because I think this bishop is going to be really bad for most of the game. This slice squared bishop. So I would play, and if h3, I would just take. So that's what I would do personally as black. But he played e6, and so I do recognize that I do hate bishops, so I'm biased, and maybe other people want to maintain their bishop pair. Because that's the one thing black does have. So white did give away their bishop pair early on in the game, like on move 3, or move 4. So that is something to consider. Some people like their bishops, so it makes sense that he would play e6 here. But at the same time, I'm like, just play bishop g4 and finish development. So I played nf3. He plays nf6. I castle. He continues developing, and I play b3. b3 is a very common thematic move in this structure and in this opening because really. I want to control the pawn in front of his doubled pawns. Because if I don't, he can maybe push it and try to trade off his double pawns. And this is a weakness. Like this is a weakness that I can target in the future. And what's very cool about white's setup is that I kind of had 2 plans. Plan number 1, target these isolated pawns. Plan number 2, attack on the king side. My pawn chain is pointing towards the king side. I can go for an f5 pawn break at some point, move in my knights here, try to trade off his defender on f6, and just attack him. So, and I can kind of play both plans, simultaneously, as we'll see in the game. He castles, I play knight e5, and yeah, this is just not a very comfortable position for black at all. Attacking this pawn, bishop e7, and this bishop is a tall pawn and is just like sad. He doesn't commit his bishop anywhere yet. He goes queen c7, defending his pawns like this. getting closer to connecting his rooks, and I just rotate my knight back. Well, I don't do that yet. I go queen e1 first. Kind of saying, hey, maybe I'll hop over to a5. Maybe I'll hop over to g3 or h3 as long as there's no discovered attacks on my queen. So it's actually a really interesting move. Queen e1, very common whenever the f pawn is pushed. This idea of going queen to e1 is very, very common because now the queen can slide over to the king side very easily. So very flexible move. And I'm just waiting to see what he does. Like, what is he going to do? And so he plays knight d7, which I list as an inaccuracy because his main idea of trying to trade off my knight isn't that good. Because I'm able to just go knight to c4. And if he plays knight to b6, I think it's a blunder. I list it as a blunder because now I play queen a5 and suddenly he's pinned and his knight is attacked twice. But let me back up. So I think if he doesn't play knight to b6, what else is he going to do? Like legitimately, what else is he going to do? I kind of, when I was like analyzing this game on my own without an engine, I thought like, oh, maybe he can try to play for like f6 and just like, have like a wait, a come at me approach, just like play very slowly. And in a case like that, if he played f6, I could play bishop a3, setting up some knight takes e5 tactics because the pawn is pinned. If it takes, then I can take. And then if he plays rook e8 to defend his bishop, then I can play e5, just shutting down the center, leaving him with these pawns. And if he plays f5 to open up his bishop, then I think white maintains a significant advantage. I can still go like rook f3, rook h3, queen g4, or queen g3, queen f3, and maybe some queen h5, and maybe g4 at the right moment, king h1, and rook g1. And so there's a huge king side attack brewing. And I close the center. I'm still targeting these isolated pawns, so he has to keep an eye on these pawns at all times. So I think, white is significantly better in this as well. But he plays knight b6. I play queen a5. And so he has to defend his knight that is pinned. If he plays knight d5, so the queens see each other and he defends his queen, I can just take his knight and my queen is defended by my knight. So that's a very important detail, actually. If my knight was not on c4 and was on like e5 still, for example, knight d5 would be a good way to get out of the pin because it defends his queen and my queen's undefended. But because my queen is defended, knight d5 doesn't work. So he goes rook b8 to defend, and now I go bishop a3 anyways. I think it's a great move here, setting up, x-raying the bishop and the rook, and it's just simply, this position is simply not good for black. Black's going to be losing a pawn by force. He goes f5. If he went queen d8, trying to defend his queen, so then this knight is no longer pinned, then I can do the exact same thing that happened in the game, where I'm going to trade. If he takes back with the rook, I can probably take this pawn on c5, and now this e5 pawn is weak. So that's probably what I would do. I do have to worry about rook b5, but in this case I can just trade, and if rook takes. So probably bishop takes, and I'm doing good, of course. So, and so the same thing happens, but with f5 on the board. So f5 is on the board. So it's really cool, just like capture chain. Takes. And white is just winning. And there's really not much he can do. One thing I thought he might try is c takes d4, because now after I take his bishop, it's opposite colored bishops. So maybe he has some drawing chances. The unfortunate part for him is that he's going to lose this d4 pawn no matter what. He can go rook e8, bishop c5, rook b7, takes, and if you try to infiltrate, I can play. I can probably play. Let's just say c4, rook d2, rook d1. And if you go here, I can go here. And now you're not doubling up on the 7th rank. I'm going to play king f1 maybe. And I'm going to have a good game. I'm going to push d4 and d5 at some point. Very easy game for white. So I thought he might try that though because it's obstacle bishops. But instead of that, he plays bishop d6, maintaining his bishop pair. He does have a bishop pair after all. However, his rook is misplaced. His pawns are horrible. So it doesn't matter that that you have the bishop pair in this case. I play rook a e1, just putting my rook on an open file. This rook's guarding this pawn, so and I'm not in a rush to get out of this pit. My knight can stay hanging. He can still take, and then if he goes here, I can go here, because if he wants to try to defend d4, I can go here and fork. So, not very good for him. He goes rook d8, setting up an X-ray on my knight, and I just go knight e6 here, attacking his rook and attacking c5. So if he doesn't take my knight, I win the c5 pawn. So he chops. And now he goes king f7, which seems like a good move because now, if I double up, then maybe he can win this pawn if he wants it. Or he can just maintain his bishop here. But no, I just take. And he resigns. He's kind of brutal because, how often can the rooks not protect each other? And so I'll just be up a bishop in this case. And so he just resigned after rook takes d6. So kind of crazy. I was never up any material in that game, but it felt like, I guess I am up a pawn technically. Okay, yeah. But yeah, so that was the game. I'm proud of myself for playing a pretty smooth game overall. I think my opponent rushed to trade knights. But honestly, his position was very uncomfortable anyways. I would not want to be black in this position. It's just where are the pawn breaks? The one who controls the pawn breaks control the games, and where are black's pawn breaks? Legitimately, there's no c file counterplay. There's no a5. I can meet it with a4, or I can just play. I can just let him play a5, a4. Honestly, maybe as well. But there's nothing for black on the king side, not much on the queen side, so very difficult for black to play. But with that being said, I'm just going to hit the game review, and I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.